So the plan was to create a video that would give you guys information on the builders, what they all had to offer, what their timelines looked like, something really, really specific that you could go out and use. And we had a really hard time gathering that information because what we would find is that the advertised model was actually no longer open. One of them even had a neon sign in the window that said open, but it was locked and there was no one in there during the times that it said it was open. We walked into one model and talked to a sales rep who literally knew nothing about the neighborhood. She didn't know how many units were coming. She barely knew the price of the model that we were standing in. We just kind of we drove away from this day going, this is frustrating, like really frustrating that we are driving around, we are in the industry, driving around in our cars all day long trying to gather information and we can't get it. So how in the world, as a consumer who's interested in building something, how are you supposed to find the best option, basically? And we kind of went, okay, well, let's shift the purpose of the video and let's just cover 5 things that you need to know if you plan to build a house, whether it's this year, next year, but in the foreseeable future. Here's what we came up with.
Okay, so I got our list right here. And the first one we want to touch on is just weighing the pros and cons of building or buying existing.
So I think a lot of people are attracted to new, right? They just they feel like they've lived in a house or they lived in 2 houses now, and now they deserve to have a home built for them. And I know that kind of feels like the American dream to some people, but I want you to really sit down and think about it. Why are you building? Is it because you want fresh and new, or are you looking for a certain characteristic out of the house or out of the neighborhood? Because what I have found is that a lot of people who come to us, they say they want new, and then if we find them a 10-year-old house or a 15-year-old house that's been completely remodeled, or it maybe has a location that they couldn't buy now, like it's on a pond or it backs to the woods, which those are really hard to find right now, then usually they're willing to sacrifice and not go the new construction route. Even if you're really dead set on new construction, you should have your agent set you up on a search for existing as well. Think about these things too, you guys. Any new construction house is probably going to come with an unfinished lower level. It's probably going to come without a deck, depending on materials and size. Your deck can be a $30,000 to $40,000 job. It comes without gutters. Sometimes comes without irrigation, landscaping, all that. So when you add it up, right, you might think you're getting a great house at $600,000, but once you've put all those things in, all of a sudden you're at $750, and it adds up quickly. So,
yeah.
Okay, so Karissa, what's the second thing?
The second thing we are going to talk about, number 2, is, which kind of leads us into that, is consider the timeline and respect the timeline.
Respect the timeline and be flexible. If you walk into a model right now and you sign a purchase agreement, there's probably a solid 30 days or more before they are actually digging a hole there, right? And from time of PA till the time you're moving in can be sometimes up to a year, maybe even more depending on the builder and how custom it is. Keep in mind, you're looking at probably minimum 8 months. I haven't seen one in less than 8 months in quite some time, but I know there's a few out there who probably say closer to 6. It just depends on how backed up they are and how custom the house is. So to kind of mitigate that timeline issue that everybody's running into, what we're seeing is a lot of these big box builders are just choosing to build spec homes.
Yeah. What's an inventory home? Is that the same as a spec, or is it different?
An inventory home is the same as a spec home. And all that means is that the builder is going to go in and they're going to make all the selections. So they're going to pick the cabinet colors, the trim colors, the hardware, the light fixtures, all that stuff. They're going to predetermine all that. And then they're just going to pop it up on whatever lot that they feel like popping it up on. And usually those get rolled out like in phases. So, I know of one national builder who says, okay, we have 3 available, we need to send it out to this waiting list, and if they go, great, and if they don't, then it goes to the next wave of people. And so it's kind of the Wild West out there right now in terms of that process. You have to be okay with possibly not picking everything on the inside.
And that's more for some of the national builders that we're seeing in this market. The smaller builders, the custom home builders, you will still be able to go through the selection process with them, most likely. They may have some restrictions on things that they can do. Maybe they're tied to certain floor plans, but for everything that goes inside that specific floor plan is up to you, the buyer. So there's There's definitely a wide range of experiences from a buyer's perspective, but just keep that in mind when you're thinking about your timeline, and also have an idea of what transitional housing looks like. What does selling now look like and finding transitional housing? Is there a family member that you are able to move in with for some time? Is there a rental opportunity? Maybe you have an investment portfolio of your own and you're able to move into one of your investment properties for some time.
All right,
Number three.
Karissa, what is number 3?
Number 3, research builders and the neighborhoods.
Yeah. Obviously, everybody has access to a lot of information these days on the internet. So generally speaking, you, the consumer, can find out a lot about who's in your area in terms of builders. But I will tell you that there's a lot of things not on the MLS and not really advertised very well online. So one of the super important things about having an agent back you from the very beginning is that we have those relationships already established. So if you tell me you're looking for a new construction home in a certain area, I already know who I'm reaching out to say, hey, what do we know? Do we have any more lots coming? Because to the general public, a builder might say, we have phase 1 and phase 2, right? But to us, they might say phase 3 and phase 4 are going to be coming in 2024, but we haven't released that to the public yet. I already can give you more information that you can gather on your own. So do your research on which neighborhoods you like and what kind of amenities they offer. Do they have a clubhouse? Do they have a pool? Is there an HOA fee? Are there covenants? One of the most common problems we run into is, like, can I park my ice house or my boat on the side of the garage or on a parking pad or on a driveway? And a lot of the neighborhoods nowadays do not allow that stuff. So make sure you're doing your research on the restrictive covenants.
Having a fence in your yard is important because you have a dog. There may be parameters that you have to stay in, no pun intended, of what your fence looks like, right? You can't put up a 6-foot fence. It has to be no higher than 5 feet or 4.5 feet.
Or some don't allow chain link.
Yep, it has to be maintenance free and you can only have these colors. So that may affect what you build, right? What your exterior looks like, because you have to keep your fence in mind.
Or do you need a storage shed? Because if you do, the storage shed has to match the house, and we could go on and on.
So I would just say familiarize yourself with the builders and what your requirements or needs and wants are. If buying an inventory home is completely out of the question for you and your family, and the whole purpose of building a home is so that you can pick every little detail that goes inside of it, then we need to shift our focus and only focus on those custom home builders or those small builders. And they are only in certain neighborhoods.
Okay, number 4.
Number 4 is prioritize selections and upgrades that cannot be changed down the road.
Yes, this is a big one, you guys. Okay, think about things like vaulted ceilings, or you want to maybe have a dining room that's a little bit bigger because you want that farm table and you can do a bump out. Or maybe you want a window in a certain area or some sort of transom windows above, in your office or something. Make sure you prioritize that stuff up front, because those are things that you can't really change down the road. I mean,
also keep in mind the neighborhood cap, right? How long do you plan to be in this home? If you only plan to be in this home for 5-7 years, maybe 10, make sure you're making decisions based on the neighborhood, right? You don't want to build $1 million home that has a neighborhood cap of 600, right? That wouldn't make sense.
Or if you do know that, because like some people don't care about resale. They just want to build the house how they want to build the house, and that's okay too.
And that's totally fine. But if that is important to you, just make sure you are aware of that and you understand the neighborhood when making these decisions.
Other little things that come up in these builder meetings are things like carpet and carpet pad, irrigation, gutters, landscaping. I always tell everybody, don't cheap out on the carpet and the carpet pad, because we actually, our last house we bought was 2 years old when we bought it, and we had to put $10,000 worth of carpet in that year. So it was already shot 2 years, and it was builder grade carpet. So we can coach you up on things that are, money well spent. And then oftentimes things like gutters and irrigation and things like that are actually cheaper outside of closing, because builders just don't want to do it right now. It bogs them down, and they need to get on to the next house. So, all right, should we talk about the last item? Item number 5. Okay, you guys, When you walk into a builder's model or you meet with a builder, keep in mind that, and I guess I can't speak for them every time, so keep in mind that 99.9% of the time they represent the builder and the builder's best interests, okay? So they don't have you and your family's interests at the forefront of their mind. And what they do have at the forefront of their mind is hitting their numbers and selling what they can sell and making sure to get rid of X amount of lots by a certain date. And the really only thing they owe you is confidentiality. And it's really, really important to have somebody here who has your back and making sure that you're not being taken advantage of. There's a lot of moving parts in this entire process. And this goes for their affiliates too. So when we're talking about lenders and title companies is not as important, but keep in mind, if you're comparing lenders, it may look cheaper on one piece of paper than it does on the other pre-approval or disclosure. But just make sure you're comparing apples to apples, because it's really easy to have a number here that you think looks better, but it's made up in the life of the mortgage, and actually that ends up costing you way, way more over the 30 years of the loan. So
builders, lenders, in general, I would say give incentives out, like a free basement, or that you can get this if you choose our people. And usually what they mean by their vendors, it typically is title, which we actually recommend you use the builder's title company, because they are able to take care of all the lien waivers. To use an outside title company can get a little bit more complex. But as far as the lender goes, we have had plenty of clients that have used the builder's lender, and that has been the best option for them. And with some incentives, you're paying for it in the rate that other outside lenders will tell you. So just like he said, make sure you're comparing apples to apples and you're not paying for it somewhere in the life of the loan. Because and also, I will end with this. We understand what a lot of different builders are doing. We understand what the existing home market looks like. And these new construction representatives may not know that. So by not knowing that information, you're exempt from that, and you're not being educated to make the right decision for that specific home. So just keep that in mind. They're only there for one purpose, and that purpose is for the builders. We love them. We love builder reps. We have a lot of really good relationships with these people. And I would like to say that I think that they would agree in that they also love working with other real estate professionals that are representing clients, so that they can have a non-emotional black and white conversation.
So that's it. Five things that we think are very important for you to know if you're considering new construction right now.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, post them below. Hit subscribe. Follow us on YouTube. And we will keep delivering the goods.
Thanks, guys.